At the age of 41 years old, a woman who actually ended up co-founding Unity was given a final diagnosis. She had had a lifetime of tuberculosis, weak lungs, weak this, weak that, but she was finally at a place where her health had deteriorated to the degree that the doctors, after doctor after doctor after doctor, had said, you've got 6 months and that's pretty much it. So in an act of desperation, she turned to the practice of metaphysics and fully immersed herself in daily prayer, daily meditation, and daily self-care until she emerged a powerful woman filled with the healing Holy Spirit of God, ministering not only to herself, but ministering to others. And she lived for another 45 years. 45 years. It was a formula and a practice of metaphysics that she was curious about, that she learned and began to teach to others. Her husband took it on. Together they ministered in spiritual communities that they created. She's also the founder of our prayer ministry, Silent Unity. She was the founder and editor for many years of the children's magazine, We Wisdom. She taught spiritual education classes. And as part of her work in the world, part of her giving to the world, she wrote thousands and thousands of letters to people who were asking for support in their own healings. Now, some of the people who were asking for support, their healings weren't instantaneous. Now, Myrtle's wasn't either. Her healing took 2 years. But people would write her and say, I've tried and tried, I've prayed and I've prayed, and nothing is happening. What am I doing wrong? And here's what one of her responses to people were. The Spirit said to me, you have looked among your faults, now look among your virtues. I thought that was strange, but soon it came to me that I didn't feel as sweet and poised on the inside as I seemed outwardly. I began to watch and to redeem this state of mind. As I gained real poise and the ability to keep my thoughts and feelings truly free, I was healed and restored to strength and normal functioning. So in other words, when Myrtle Fillmore took the opportunity to tune in and to identify exactly what she was feeling and what she was thinking, she was able to create integrity. She was able to create an inside that she wanted to see on the outside as the genuine, real deal. She was able to apply her attention to herself, to take care of herself, so that she eventually got to see herself as whole and healed. So this kind of practice is something that's available to us too. Because if we aren't going to take care of ourselves, who will? I think some of the deepest, most amazing wisdom my mother ever shared with me is the opportunity to consider the affirmation or the invitation, take care of yourself, there's only one you. Take care of yourself, there's only one you. She was absolutely brilliant, this is so true, and before you think my mother was a saint, I can probably give you some context, because she was a saint in some ways, and I loved my mother, I really did. But this came up at a time in my life where I was super crunched. I was working a part-time job, which really meant that I would get up really early in the morning in order to get everybody out the door. And while I was getting everybody out the door, I was throwing a load in the laundry, and I was also creating the shopping list, and I was also making the bed so that I could go do my corporate job. And as soon as that clock hit 2:30, I was in the car doing this after-school pickup and going to soccer practice and going to water polo practice and taking them to ballet lessons and taking them to tutoring and maybe getting home by 5 or 6 at night and maybe having time to make dinner before I went out and maybe did something like water the plants or go to a junior league meeting. So my mother would say over and over again, take care of yourself. There's only one you. And she would give me all these wonderful opportunities to take care of myself. Now, her opportunities for self-care didn't exactly look like mine. My idea of self-care is sitting on the beach and watching the kids play in the water. But her ideas were like, come to the opera with me. Come to this lecture with me. Let's go to this art exhibit together. Oh, by the way, I need you to help me. This is self-care. I need you to help me plan this dinner party for 16 people. And oh yes, and could you be on these 3 committees with me? So my mom's idea of self-care was not exactly my own. And what I found for myself, that not only was I perennially exhausted, I was also very unnaturally skinny, and I was not in integrity with myself. Integrity really means when the outside of what we are matches the inside of how we think and feel. Integrity really means that the words and deeds that we choose to engage in out there are coming and are connected to what we're really feeling in here. That connection between the inside and the outside is actually called, it has a very lovely psychological term, and it's called emotional literacy. Katie Hendricks has developed 4 pillars of integrity, and emotional literacy is one of them. And it is to know what you're actually feeling and thinking when you feel and think it. Now, you first think this is duh, but really think about all the women in our society that are taught it's not okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. So if you feel angry, you can cry. And think of all the men in our society that are taught it's not okay to be sad, but it's okay to be angry. So you can yell, but you can't cry. And years and years and years of this kind of message and this kind of choice and this kind of behavior is generally confusing. The second one, to discriminate between different feelings and sensations. There's a difference between being tired and being depressed. There's a difference between being hungry and being grouchy. In the family I grew up in, it wasn't okay to be depressed. So people would say, oh, you look like you're feeling a little low. And I'd say, oh no, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. And it wasn't ever okay to be hungry. And it wasn't really okay to be grouchy. But if people would say, are you hungry? I'd be like, oh no, I'm just a little grouchy, sorry. Just a little grouchy. But see how years and years and years of these kinds of messages for myself and for other people, how we generally get a little confused. Emotional literacy is really knowing that our body holds wisdom and that the wisdom is unarguable. So if we're having sensations in our belly, that really means that we're afraid. If we're having sensations in our chest, that really means that we're sad. If we have a lot of sensation in our neck or our shoulders, that really means we're angry. And when we take a look and tune in and go, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was so angry, it helps untangle some of that confusion that happens over years and years of being told something else. To know the true source of your feelings. Katie gives the example of a spouse getting angry because her mate went out to the movies without her. But really, that wasn't the source of her anger. The source of her anger was when she was little and her parents used to go to the movies without her and leave her with a really bad babysitter. And that's what she was angry about. So sometimes we think it's this, but it's that. And untangling all those knots actually free us to be in a good sense of emotional literacy with ourselves. The last one is to be able to stay aware of feelings until they subside. We think if we start to get angry, we're going to be lost in our anger forever. Or if we start to cry, we're going to cry forever and the world will end. But really, it doesn't take as long as you think. It doesn't take as long as you think. And when we're able to stay present with our feelings as we feel them all the way through, then we can be free. Then we can be clear and then we can be free. And what we tend to do sometimes is to cover those feelings up by eating, by being tired all the time, or by watching TV or other distractions. So this is a wonderful way to come into alignment with ourselves, to be in integrity with ourselves. Because when we're in integrity, then we can be free to take care of ourselves. We can actually know what's going on inside, and we can make choices that match that on the outside. Self-care has a lot of manifestations. Self-care can look like getting a good night's sleep, or maybe even taking a nap. It can look like eating good food. It can look like exercising. It can look like getting together with friends. That's really self-care. It can be meditating, or it can be getting a massage. All of these things are essential ways that we come into the full expression of our happiness, the full expression of our fulfillment, the full expression of our productivity. Here's the thing about self-care. It only works if it's not work. So if we're the type of person who makes a list and puts self-care on the list as something we have to do, then it's not really self-care. It's just not. We think it is, so it's like, what is your list of things to do today? I must go to the gym. So here's two flags. I'm using the word must. I must go to the gym. And the other flag is I've got my pointer finger out. Because when I use words like must, and when I get my pointer finger out, then it's fun that is not fun. Self-care is about free choice. It's about matching. If I feel like taking a nap, and I take a nap, that's self-care. If I don't feel like going to yoga, I don't go to yoga. If I don't feel like journaling, I don't journal. I do the things that are fun, because fun self-care is the kind that really reflects that we value ourselves. We value ourselves. And when we value ourselves, we're actually doing two things. We're doing two things. As we take care of ourselves, we have no need to attempt to control, or otherwise manipulate others. You know what I mean? Like control, cajole, or manipulate others. I can give you an example. So let's say I'm feeling whole. I'm recognizing my wholeness, and I have an experience of having sore feet. I have some choices. I can go ahead and rub my feet myself, or I can go to the mall and I can go to the relaxation station and give myself 20 minutes of a foot massage, or I can make a request. Nikki, would you be so kind as to give my feet some TLC? That's when I feel whole. But let's say I come from a place where I don't feel so whole. So I'm going to be over there going, nah. My feet hurt. Here comes Nikki. Oh, my feet hurt. Nikki doesn't notice. She walks by, and so then I go, okay, that didn't work. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so then I'm going to think, well, maybe I could bribe her with a promise by making a promise I don't intend to keep. So Nikki, maybe I can buy you a Starbucks later if you would like. Would you just... Okay, no, wait, forget the bribery, forget the cajole, I'll just demand it. Can you just rub my feet right now? You know, it comes from a whole different place. Do you think Nikki's going to be inspired to give? Not exactly. So when or as I take care of myself, I have no attempt to cajole, control, or manipulate another. And the second thing that happens is we're more available to see others as whole. When we see and as we see ourselves as whole, we have a greater capacity to see other people as whole. We actually open up, because we've taken care of ourselves, we've opened up our ability to give. We have more to give because we have given to ourselves first. In order to do this, in order to be able to take care of ourselves, we have to know ourselves. In 1915, which was 101 years ago, Myrtle Fillmore wrote a personal credo. And in this personal credo, she said, if I'm going to give to myself, if I'm going to be kind to myself, I need to be really clear about what I like and what I don't like. And then Charles said, oh, that is such a good idea. Because he might have a whole lot more writings, and he might have given a whole lot more lectures, but Myrtle was the real leader, so she did this first in 1915, and I'm going to invite you to do it yourself. It's called homework, to take home with you. It's in your bulletin. It says 2016 personal credo, and then you get to give your answers for these things. But Myrtle started out by saying, my one extravagance is the movies. Charles Fillmore said his one extravagant was 5-cent meals at Unity Inn. Myrtle said her pet economy was saving her breath. Charles said his pet economy was no Christmas presents. And I just want you to know I'm not willing to make that agreement with anybody. Charles Fillmore said his unacknowledged fear was meeting strangers. They said of their bête noire, which is a term that's for something that's particularly disliked or try to be avoided. Myrtle Fillmore hated deadlines. She hated the copy deadline that she had to meet for the magazines. And Charles Fillmore said his bête noire was people who talk poverty. My unconfessed weakness, Myrtle Fillmore said hers was cookies. And I'll just tell you, I'm going to confess mine right now. It's ice cream. I love, yeah, you too. Whoop, whoops. Secret sorrow, Myrtle Fillmore said a lazy pen, and that's somebody who just rambles on and doesn't have thoughts that are connected to their mind, their body, or their spirit. A personal motto was, Charles Fillmore said, everything is lovely and the goose honks high. Top that one. My favorite dish, Myrtle Fillmore says, a dinner of herbs where love is. Charles Fillmore said bean soup, and I say pizza. Myrtle Fillmore said her favorite beverage was Adam's Ale, and I had to go look that up because I'm thinking, oh, she's from, Midwest, so there must be some kind of special sarsaparilla or root beer. But come to find out, she was a big advocate for temperance. She did not drink, and she didn't think anybody else should drink, and Adam's Ale is water. It's the kind of pure water that Adam would have consumed in the Garden of Eden. See, we know Myrtle a little better. Her unlucky day was one of fruitless efforts. Her favorite superstition, which is what I would call a proverb, she said, a man is known by the thoughts he keeps. And given what you know of Myrtle just from today, that makes sense, doesn't it? Charles said, the star of my destiny is always rising. And then the last is my mascot. Myrtle Fillmore considered her mascot omnipresent courage.
Wow.
Omnipresent courage. And I love that because I've believed for a long time that it's courage, not confidence, that moves us forward in life. Myrtle made these determinations in prayer by a willingness to become emotionally literate with herself, by willing to know herself so well that she knew how to care for herself. And in caring for herself, she recognized her value. In recognizing her value, she realized that she had no need to cajole, control, or manipulate her world. She realized that she had more to give. She had a greater capacity to give. So I invite you this week to take your 2016 personal credo and write it down so that you know. And you can invite others to support you by buying pizza or ice cream or holding your vision of geese honking high and affirming your omnipresent courage. So as we begin to consider this assignment, did I click the next one? There it is. La la. Let's go into a time of meditation by singing When I Pray.